recording?
We're rolling.
Okay. Today's guest is Nataline Cruz. She is what would you call it? The host of the Sacred Donut podcast?
Yeah. Creator, host, participant.
And then what would you call your title for the Strawberry Moon?
It depends on who you ask. Some people call me maestra, teacher, healer, intuitive, shaman, curandera, that lady that does healing work and rubs eggs on you. I get all those. So it depends on who you ask.
The egg rubber?
Yeah, the egg lady. Or the lady that spits on you. They don't understand, right? That lady that spits tequila on you.
Oh, do you do? I've seen some clips of that where they.
Yeah, we use our breath to move the energy with the what we call the aguardiente, or the sacred water.
Yeah. So anybody watching this, Nataline, just so you know, Nataline was our first guest ever on the Our World podcast. I was so nervous for that. That was my first podcast, and getting it started was difficult for me, but Nataline made it really easy for me in the interview and just flowed. And I appreciate you as our first guest. I really appreciate it, and thank you for coming back.
Yeah, I was so honored to be the first and happy to be back. Seems like you guys are rolling along.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to know more we'll talk about some of the spiritual stuff here. But if you want to hear about more of it, go to that episode 1 of the Our World podcast, episode 1, and watch that one as well, in addition to this. Mm-hmm. But in this one, I definitely wanted to dig more into the aliens and the flat earth and your trips to Egypt, because there's some stuff that has come up since then with some of the pulse radar devices that they've used to look in the ground, and there's Egyptologists that disagree with it, but you've been to Egypt. You've met some Egyptians. I don't know if you've met any stubborn ones, but I've met quite a few stubborn Egyptians, or Egyptians. Yeah, they'd be called Egyptians.
There's a difference between Egyptologists and chematologists.
Okay.
Egyptologists are going to stick to the history that they've been selling you for a long time, where chematologists are going to look at more of what's the truth behind what we've been told. Like an Egyptologist will say, this is a temple and it's been here X amount of years and it was built with stone and chisel. And chematologist is going to say, well, there's a hieroglyph of a UFO and a helicopter and a submarine and what else? I think it's a helicopter, a submarine, and a UFO.
Something like that. Yeah, we just looked at those the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to be a little bit more like...
Yeah. So the Egyptologists are so staunch that there had to be a whole nother faction created with a different name.
Yes. Wow. Because Kemet is the black land, right? It means sacred, the land of the black land. And Egyptology is like the history of what they've told us happened.
Yeah, and the Egyptians just in general are very stubborn people. And I know a lot of Egyptians. And I got some friends that are Egyptians, and I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but even my friends that are Egyptians are very stubborn. Yeah, I have one friend who's Egyptian who's not, and he's like, "Oh man, they're sometimes they're just too stubborn." he admits it, but everybody has those people, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there was that guy that went on Joe Rogan, Dr. Zahi Hawass. Mm-hmm. Did you see any of that? I sent you the link. I wanted you to watch it.
Oh, I didn't watch it. Sorry.
Oh, this guy.
What was he talking about?
So I don't know his title, but he's more the guy who sticks to his guns on this is the way it is. This is the way it's always been. This is what it is. And anybody who comes up with something else or digs anything else up, in this case, there was a group, I think they were out of France. I don't remember exactly. I don't know who the guys are or what the business is, but they did some pulse radar, from what I understand. It's not GPR. It's a different way.
They use LiDAR too, I think, right?
Did they use LiDAR too?
Something. I don't know. I shouldn't just be saying things. I can look it up.
But yeah, so anyways, they seen underneath the pyramids into the ground, and they seen these
columns.
The columns.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so. This is what I know from my experience. This is partially why I don't listen to a lot of things, because I like to just go and look myself. When I went to the Sphinx, I was like, this was water. There was water all around this. You could tell by the way that it's worn down. So the sand didn't do that. Maybe the sand did some, of course, because it's been there forever. But the water, it was submerged underwater. There was water that surrounded it. When I went to Abydos is a temple that the flower of life is seen at. This is kind of where that image is seen, that they say is, hundreds of thousands of years old, or thousands of years old, depending on who you ask. There sits a temple that they say there's a temple underneath it. And so once your mind kind of realizes, it's the same as when I go to the Mayan temples. There are temples that have, I'm old enough to know that when, the first time I went to the temples in Tikal, they were just starting to excavate, not just starting, but they were in excavation. Now you go and they're fully exposed. There are places all over the world that have mountains or hills that have sacred temples underneath them. So why would there not be something underneath the pyramids or the Sphinx or whatever else? It could have been that a civilization lived there before and the Egyptians built on top of it. Could have been something they were hiding. One of the things I know from the conversations I've had there is that part of the problem is if we dig under there, we ruin what is here. So like the temple in Abydos, it's like if we start to excavate, we then ruin this temple that sits on top of it. So
maybe some of this radar technology is useful.
But then of course, aren't we going to want to dig and look? And how many layers are underneath that? We could say that even about like these cliffs that look like cliffs, but they say they were trees. They're petrified trees. They were giant trees that have been petrified, and now they're like these sacred mountains. So there comes a point where it's like, how much do we dig? Because the more you dig, the more you dig. The more you dig, the more you find. What would be nice is if somebody could just tell us what the truth was, and then maybe we wouldn't necessarily need to dig, or we could just look with this modern technology that we have now that could show us a lot of images. But, humans are curious. We're still going to want to look.
Mm-hmm. So we want to touch it.
We want to touch it. We want to see it. Yeah. And so I'm a firm believer that there are cities underground. There are cities under us, whether they have been made recently by government people, or my understanding in the ancient teachings that I study is that there are our ancestors that went underground when there was the war over Earth, and some of them went underground, and they have structures and cities underground. So if we start digging, we're also going to disturb what is possibly underground. So there's a lot they don't want us to know or tell us. And every place I've went, like when I went to Egypt on one of the trips, hearing that like 100 years of history was erased because the Greeks conquered them, and because I was surprised at how like Mediterranean the food was. It's like, oh, well, the Greeks came here and took over for 100 years and erased a lot of history. It's the same as the Aztecs, the Mayans, all of their history. I like the show Vikings, and there's like a couple episodes where you see them raid the place and then they burn all the sacred texts, like go into like a Catholic church and they burn all the sacred texts. And I'm like, how much information have we just destroyed? And here we're over here putting pieces together and then they just tell us a story, right? We go to school and they're like, this is how the pyramids were built by tens of thousands of slaves over a period of 50 years or whatever. And it's like, no, I don't buy that. I don't buy it because one of the things I teach in the, before I take people to Egypt is that, and I should have brought my notes because I will mess up the numbers, but the pyramids are like by 1 degree off of the equinoxes and the degrees of, they're considered the center of the earth. How do you get a center of a sphere on a flat plane? but they're like so mathematically perfect. How do you put that massive structure on a space that is that perfect? You're just a little tiny bit off. That's a massive structure, and man did that.
Yeah, I think I heard something that they were aligned at a certain point perfectly, and since a time has elapsed since then, that's how far they're off.
Yeah, because the poles have shifted, because so they aligned with the constellations, and then now that the poles have shifted, it's changing the way, right? Because the wobble, they call it the wobble. There's like a 1 degree wobble that they accounted for. So tell me how we did that with chisel, hammer, and min.
Yeah.
Like you can't. Now tell me we did that with sound frequency or with high technology. Absolutely.
Well, not with where we came from. This group of people right now.
Right.
With the technology we had at the beginning of this civilization.
So what I teach is, so when the first time I went to Egypt, I went kind of just on a whim, and I didn't have a lot of background. It was like one of those, so let me back up. I was swimming, I was snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Amazing experience. Okay, I'm underwater. There's clams like as big as my truck. I drive a Dodge Ram 15.
Clams as big as your
clams
truck?
As big as my truck, and
I think I've seen stuff like that in movies.
I am not exaggerating,
but not like in anything real.
No, it is the Great Barrier Reef in the middle of
clams.
Yes.
Do they have the little curves that you see like in the movies?
And they say they're like 100 years old.
What?
So huge. Okay?
How big of pearls do they put out, or do they put out pearls?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Whoa.
We better not tell
Be
anybody.
rich off of one of those pearls.
Have you ever heard of clams as big as a vehicle?
It's huge. I'm not lying.
No, but it seems like every couple of years they find some sea monster that's like bigger than we've ever seen before. So
yeah, there were fish that I thought were
it.
sharks, so they were big. Yeah, so I'm underwater and I'm like thinking this is like a mushroom. This is like a psychedelic trip. I'm underwater with this whole world, amazing reefs. Just go to the edge of the cliff.
Were you on shrooms at the
No,
time?
I wasn't. I wasn't. I already have issues. I can't be high.
I'm just kidding.
I already live in the strange reality. So I'm swimming and I get this like thought in my head, like, wow, I've been to some really incredible places, except for Egypt. I was like, that's strange that doing what I do and where I've been, and that I haven't been to Egypt. And I was like, I didn't really have like a huge desire. And so I just kind of said, if I'm meant to go, I'll go. I get out of the boat, have lunch. We hit a satellite somewhere and my phone dings. Like every now and then you're on the catamaran and you get signal. So you get service. So I get an email from this woman and she's like, hey, I'm putting together this trip to Egypt. Are you interested? And I'm like, serious? So I have to say yes, right? I'm already like, why did that come to me like an hour ago? So I go without any really preparation. She did like some pre-prep classes, but I was so busy and I was only like half paying attention. So I go and I'm realizing I go and I'm walking through these temples and I don't know what any of this means. I'm like, I don't know what these symbols mean. Like you have some idea, right? You're like, oh, that's an eye or whatever. So I decide I really like the guide that the gentleman that guided us. And so I become friends with him and I'm like, I'm going to do my own trip. So I come home and I start to prepare for a trip, and you're talking about a year. And so I'm like, I'm going to teach classes so that I can learn. I'm going to teach some classes so that I know what the hell's happening when we're there in these temples. So I start to teach the classes and I realize I'm not getting any information that's outside of this box. Like no matter what I would type in, I would get the same articles over and over and over, verbatim. Like I would type in Sphinx and you get the same information and it would be like a different article, and it would be, I would say, I thought I already read that. So I'd look back and I'd say, they're just repeating. It's like the same repetitive article over and over, but it looks like a different title. They throw in some different pictures. So I got really skeptical. I was like, what the hell is this? Like you can't get past like History 101.
This episode is brought to you by the Josh Henry Workshop, where craftsmanship meets purpose. Whether you're in the kitchen slicing up dinner, out in the woods, or just need a reliable everyday carry, the Josh Henry Workshop has you covered. Every knife is handmade and hand-forged in the good old USA and North Carolina by a veteran-owned small business that puts heart, heritage, and pride into every blade. Michael, what do you think about the Josh Henry Workshop knives?
Jeremiah, I love the quality of the Josh Henry Workshop knives. These are not mass-produced tools. They are custom pieces built to last with real attention to detail. So if you're looking for a knife that works as hard as you do, check out the Josh Henry Workshop. You'll find your new favorite blade, and you'll be supporting a small business that truly cares about the craft. Visit the Josh Henry Workshop on either Instagram or Facebook at Josh Henry Workshop to learn more or to place a custom order today.
So somehow I start to, between my intuitive feelings, and I just stumble upon stuff. So I stumbled upon like a Pleiadian, it was some person who channeled a being from Pleiades. And this being from Pleiades says that it's Thoth, and it's, or Thoth, however you want to say his name. And he's like going to tell them the story of like what happened. And so they tell this whole story about the flood. And so the belief is that according to his story, that mankind was misbehaving. Humans were up to no good. And Creator, his father, whatever we want to call him, was like, we're done. Like, get Noah, get this one person to put all these animals in a boat. Well, we've learned over time that, like, let's be honest, like, this is kind of the same, the chisel and the hammer thing. Like, you can't put all the Earth's animals on one boat.
I think it was more like a metaphor.
It was a metaphor, or what I've come to believe, they had DNA. This was like DNA. Like, they could have had everything in a suitcase. I've come to believe that they collected either saliva or DNA into this one box or boat or whatever and saved it from. So the belief is that this guy, Thoth, decided he really liked humans and he felt bad for them and didn't want to see them destroyed. So he's the one that set this ball in motion and said, we're going to get a spaceship full of whoever we can save and these animals, and we're going to hover, we're going to wait until the flood's over. And then when the flood was over, they came back and decided to populate the earth with this DNA. Okay. So in that idea, I realized there's a whole lot of history before the flood that we have no concept of. So my belief has become, and I don't have like good like data or truth on this. This is what my intuitive feeling is that we had a high civilized society before the flood. We had spaceships, we had high tech, we had whatever. And for whatever reason, whether it was humans are being bad or the belief that there is this war in heaven, that they decided to destroy Earth and start over. So I also came across this book that's kind of, I've only dabbled in it, but it not necessarily about Egypt, but about the idea that there were high intelligent beings that were scientists, and that Earth, when they came across Earth or created Earth was a great place to have as a lab, because you could create all these things and they could take on a life of their own. And so the belief is that they were like, this is going to be a place where we're going to plant these seeds and see what happens, these microorganisms, or I'm going to build these animals or whatever and let them run free and see what happens when you let things evolve naturally with no interference. And so that's where the story of us coming and being this place where you could consciously awaken naturally. And how long would it take? Well, some stories say that it took us too long, and so they ended up interfering, and that's when we became from, say, ape to man. We had this huge jump in our DNA, and so there's a belief that they infiltrated and started to tweak the DNA, added something to the soup, and we then get to the more advanced creatures that we are now.
Well, there is evidence that everywhere that the flood happened over 12,000 years ago. There's all kinds of places where it's written on walls or just documented in different structures. The same thing is the other things that I've seen that were documented in other structures were that all the people went up to the high ground. And a lot of religious people don't like to hear this. They like to say, no, Noah was the only one. He was the only one floating around the boat. I said, look, maybe there was another group of people that documented this, that that documentation survived. But there's also other people, the other documentation survived as well, because in the same structures, there's writings of the people who had to go to the high ground because of the flood. This was all like 12,000 years ago. But I think Noah's or whatever was documented at that time became more predominant, more accepted, and more spread, Well,
Catholicism did well at spreading the stories, but those stories. So this is where, while I was starting to gather information for the Egypt classes, I was like, there's no pre-flood stories. But then what I did get was like, I realized how much Catholicism, religion, took from what Egypt, like. So I teach a class called like the Solar Mysteries, and I found an article or a written thing about the netters. So one of the things that I did was I said, okay, if we're going to go to Egypt, what's the main things people need to know? Well, there's the gods, right? There's this whole pantheon of gods. There's a 9 pantheon that everyone kind of knows, and they're called netters. They were never considered gods. And then there's the stories of how they came to be. And one of the things that I realized is that they were not trying to say we're the creator gods. We were gods that made these temples. What they were saying was these archetypes. Every one of the netters or deities or gods is an archetype that man has inside of him. And I started to realize that each temple was not worshiping that God. It was worshiping that which is inside of you. It was connecting with. So for example, there is a temple of, they call it the temple of duality, and it's Sobek and Horus. Horus is considered the deity of like righteousness. He's the good guy, right? He's law, order, man's best self, right? The guy we all aspire to be. So he's righteous, he's honest, he's truthful, he's fair. Sobek is like primal. Sobek is a crocodile. He comes in the form of a crocodile. They say the Nile was created from the semen of Sobek, and that Sobek, when he would come walking down the road, people would hide their wives because he was the dog. He was primal. I just want to procreate. I just want to.
Who is this?
Sobek. He's the crocodile netter. And so why in the temple of polarity are these two side by side?
But you're saying the netter is in people.
Yes. So what I have come to believe is that
Here, you can pull that more if you want.
these netters are inside of us. They weren't gods to be worshipped. They were saying, this is who you are. So in every man, so I take that to heart. So that's what I teach. In every man, there is this primal crocodile, wanna sleep with everything. And then there's this righteous, just man. And in the balance, you can be, like, okay, I can be a good guy. Here's my primal desires. Here's my player behavior, but I can bring it into balance. The whole idea is keeping these two things in some kind of balance. When one goes too far, either direction, we're going to have a problem. So you see that in these stories that we see, like, let's say we have like a preacher or like a upstanding guy in the community, right? Totally like, oh, everyone's like praise him and he's so great and he's so honest and he's so wonderful. And then you find out he's like doing some dark under, back alley kind of things, I don't know, maybe he has a drug problem, maybe he has a sex addiction problem, maybe he's whatever. And so it's because it's out of balance. And so I always say, when you know that about everybody, I tell women that when they get married, like, you need to know this, like, there is this in every man when I say mankind, we all have that in us. We all have, and I don't say dark side because it's not dark. There are some people who are that, right? Like the guy that's like a player and everyone's like, oh, he's a player and he's a narcissist and he's that. Why is that bad? That's not bad. That's who he is. But that also tells me, give me the guy that's like the bad guy. He's like, I don't know, womanizer, narcissist. He's like, does illegal stuff. I guarantee what's underneath is that really nice, fair guy, that safe guy, that protector, that Horus. It's in everyone, but the problem is when it goes out of balance, this is where and that's what that temple represents. And so, they worshiped him like if he was, they have like a museum of crocodiles. And well, the crocodiles were the primal animals in the area. They were the most primal, dangerous, animals on the Nile. They're not now because they've moved them, but you had to be careful, like danger, right? Danger, beware. He might come out of nowhere. And I say that about our sexual behavior, our underground behavior, our middle of the night behavior. Like it's there and you need to know that it's there. And when you teach your kids that it's there, when you teach people that it's there, it's not going to sneak up on you, right? And so we also know there's this righteous, law-abiding, fair, just person. We have to bring that into balance because that can get out of balance as well. Somebody can be too good. At some point, that's going to break. At some point, they're not going to be able to sustain it. So I say you want to bring that into balance. And so we can look at that like there's the temple of Isis. Isis is considered like the divine feminine, right? So she's the mother. But she got there by first being like this party girl. So some people say, depending on who you ask, like there's Hathor that is like considered the mother also, but she's also like the fun. She's the younger version. She's fun. She likes to dance. She likes to drink. She likes to have fun, stay out all night, that part, right? Then you have Sekhmet, who is like the woman that will burn the city down. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And so I look at women in that eye, like you start your life out young, you're naive, you have a little fun, you play, you like to dance all night. You probably get burned by a Sobek energy at some point. You serve your family for your life at some point. Sekhmet, I say, is like when the hormones take a dump. When women go into menopause, they become Sekhmet. They don't care about anything anymore. They don't care about their family. They want to burn shit down. They're like, I'm tired. I feel unappreciated. I feel like nobody gives a shit about me. Nobody has given me back what I have given. I've raised kids. I've cooked. I've cleaned. I've worked. I've done all that. And they all of a sudden they burn everything down. So one of the stories is that Sekhmet's father is Ra, the eye of Ra, right? And the eye, he was mad at humanity. There's a lot of stories about humanity misbehaving. And so he said to Sekhmet, who's represented by the lion, he said to her, go and take care of them. I'm tired of them. Well, she went on a killing spree, and she got so into it she couldn't stop. And that's the psychosis of a woman. When she's enraged, when she starts, she can't stop. And so we say that in menopause. You say when women have been burned so much, once they start that killing spree, they can't stop. So what they did is they got beer and they dyed it red from beet juice. They used beet juice to dye the beer red, and they poured it all over the street. And Sekhmet was so enraged that she'd kill, and she was licking blood off the street. So she licked the beer and she got drunk and passed out. And if you look at history of women, they used to treat
She couldn't taste the difference between
beer. Well, that's beer. This is part of the because women are that stupid, right?
No, not about women, just about her.
I know, but that's part of what they say though about the psychosis of a woman, or about hysteria, when a woman is hysterical when she's hormonal. So this is like after having a baby, going into menopause, they lose their senses and they go in rage, and you can't stop them. So you have to medicate them. So doctors have treated women for that, right? So they medicate her, they get her drunk, and she finally wakes up and she realizes how awful and what she did, and she feels she has ran that rage all the way through. Now she is just all love. Now she's not serving. Now she's not trying to people please. She's ran her anger out. Now she's just the divine mother, and she becomes the elder, the crone, the grandmother who just loves you and is like, I don't care anymore. Like, it's all good. Like, let's just
forget about all those murders.
That's exactly.
We don't need to talk about those.
So that's how, when I look at those hieroglyphs, when I look at those temples, I'm
all those stories are in those hieroglyphs?
All those stories are they're in the stories of those deities.
How many of those do you think are real?
The stories?
Yeah. Like a lady doing that.
I think
then drinking beer off the street.
I think it's real because I know women. I know the women I've treated. I know my own experiences.
I've seen women in on all of those situations that you have described. Yeah. And I've seen men in all the same situations that you described.
And that's why I look at it with that eye. Like, they were telling us who we were. They were saying these temples are a reflection of the temple within you. Inside of you is all these temples, and they all are a manifestation of this energy inside of you. Where do you worship? Which temple do you spend your most time? You know, like the indigenous teachings, they say, like, there's two wolves inside of you, right? You've probably heard this. There's two wolves inside of you. There's one that's kind and compassionate and loyal and serves, and then there's one that's angry and vicious. And which one do you feed? And I say the problem with that is people will say, well, I'm going to feed the good one. And then it's like, yeah, but then you starve the bad one. And then what happens when that one's had enough? I say they both need to be fed. They both need to be seen.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you're talking about narcissism is like, we attach a negative connotation to narcissism.
Yep.
But if you think about if we didn't have narcissists, I mean,
there's no balance.
Yeah. And there's every actor you've ever seen creates they create wonderful works of art. They do an amazing job. Every one of them's a narcissist. Absolutely.
Yes.
And they just maybe know how to keep it in check better than some other people do, and they end up in a better situation, but it's there.
The problem is people are brainwashed to believe like there's good and evil. And so the good guy, someone like Horus, who's all community giving and family giving, and the person, this is the same with women and men, anybody who gives and gives and gives and gives, I call them light slaves. At some point, they're going to burn out. And then what happens is they burn out because they don't give to themselves, and then they're done. They'll never give again. What I encourage is that if you were a little bit narcissistic, if we took the person who is the giver, the martyr, and said, be a little bit narcissistic, be a little bit selfish, be a little bit all you're going to bring balance. And then what's going to happen, they're going to have longevity in their giving and serving. But what happens is when you tell people, like the stories of Jesus wanted for nothing. He was humble. He was poor. They take that as that's the good guy. And then the people with money are the bad guys. The people who are selfish are the bad guys. And then what happens is we have this division. We have this imbalance. And so you have the givers and the takers. And you have people who can't, when we bring balance to that. So I have a whole community of healers, of light workers. And I say to them, they'll come for a long time. They come, right? They come and learn from me. They start to serve. They do community work. They're all in. And then we run hard all summer. We give a lot in the summer. And I say to them, don't come to everything. And they're like, oh, no. And I'm like, no, you need to go play with your family. You need to go have some fun, because what's going to happen is you're going to burn out, and then I'm going to lose you completely. You won't come at all. You'll be like, I'm done. I'm tired. And then you're out. Too much spirituality, they're going to burn out. Then what happens when they return to normal society? They go hard the other way. They go back to the bar. They start partying hard. It's like, it's a no-win. So I always say everything has to be in moderation. And I feel like that's what they were showing us, is that all of these netters are a manifestation of what's inside of you. And you have to decide which one one you want to feed. And I feel like in the human cycle, we are all of them. We're warrior, we're maiden, we're mother, we're father, we're crone, we're right. But that where it goes bad is where we say, oh, that's a Sobek over there, so stay away. And it's like, well, just know it's there. I don't have a problem. Hey, you're living your life, but bring balance to it, because eventually that's going to get you in trouble, right? You play too much, you're going to get in trouble. You have no fun, you're going to find yourself in trouble.
Yeah, I think we label a lot, right? With politicians, with, like Michael mentioned, famous people or anything like that, or different types of people, different races, different religions. And what I've realized is they're all the same. Like, they're really all the same. You can find the same nice, good person and the same crazy person in every group of people.
Yep.
I don't care who they are.
No, because that's why I like to teach in this way, like understanding archetypes, because I'll say in every, like, if a woman were to come to me and start dating somebody, I would say, just know there is a Horus and a Sobek there. You're looking for just the Horus, and you're going to be surprised when Sobek shows up. Or you find this nice girl, if a guy said, I found this nice girl, and I'd say, just know Sekhmet is in there. Like, careful, right? Hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned. Don't play her, because this is what you're going to get. And so, she's crazy. Yeah, we're all crazy if certain buttons are pushed. And when you understand that, every human, no one will surprise you. There's a thief in every person. There's a liar in every person. There's a dishonesty. There's also total giving and righteousness and all of that in there. It's like, you will find it if you look.
Michael, is there a liar and a thief in you? You don't seem to be that kind of person. But do you fight any feelings?
I've lied before. Yeah, totally. I wouldn't say the thief part. I spent a good part of my life catching thieves. I feel really hypocritical if I didn't.
Yeah, he worked for loss prevention for a company for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
but if you pushed me, if I had to, I know I got a lot of good tips on how to steal stuff. So I guess you could push me over the edge there.
The fact that you do that for a living tells me there's a thief inside of you.
Yeah, it does take I do have to watch people and think of what their next move would be, or why they would do something. But only a thief would
know that.
Well, take me, for example. I used to be really bad. Like, I was a criminal for, like, most of my life. And then I got my shit together and flipped to that other side and, got a career and made money. And I always joke that, yeah, I could be like the best law enforcement officer now.
Yeah, of course.
I can see it all.
This is why I say, if you listen to any of my podcast episodes that have guests on them, a lot of them are my community members, and they're all healers now and stuff, and they're all flipped the switch, right? Most of them have been alcoholics, drug addicts, criminals, in trouble, whatever. Give me those people, because then I know when they come this way, they not only understand humans, they can have compassion, and I also know that they've already ran that course, so I don't have to worry about them stealing or doing. It's there, but they've done their work around it, and so they're like, I know that's there. And so I can serve here, and I'm not going to serve from a place of purity, from a place of righteousness. I'm not going to preach at you. I'm going to help you to understand, like, hey, I've been through the dark, and I can help you get out.
So it's guys like Michael we got to watch out for.
Well, what I would say is that he... Exactly.
No, but he's a drummer in a band, so he's getting it out, He's getting his wild side
Found
out.
other avenues, yeah.
Yeah, but we attract what we are. And so the fact that you do that now still?
I don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that says to me that is in your shadow, right? It's like you could easily become like the best thief, because you know exactly the mind of that. And I always say thank you to all the people that were in my life that were criminals, or, I have brothers, and they never sugarcoated anything. They didn't lie, but almost to the point where I'd be like, God, gosh, the world's not that bad. But what they did for me is they made me aware. They're like, you need to be aware that this is what is in people. And I study human behavior. That's my hobby. That's my passion. And I know from every single person that I have worked with that people will sit down, and it's so funny. They'll say, but I'm a good guy. I'm a nice person. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you need to know that you're not. Make peace with that. It's okay. It's okay to know, like, people lie all the time. If someone said to me, I don't lie, bullshit. You're lying right now, because we lie to save feelings. We lie because we don't really want to show up to something. I gotta help my sister-in-law move. No, you don't. You want to go golfing instead of going to this baby shower or whatever, right? Yeah. We lie all the time. We lie so that we don't hurt people's feelings. Like, your wife comes home and says, do you like my new haircut? And you hate it. You're gonna tell the truth because you don't want to hurt her feelings. So we lie to save people's, we lie to get out of a little bit of trouble. Like, I didn't eat the last piece of pizza, like, must have been the kids, right? And it's like, no, just be honest. But no, you don't have to be honest with other people. You have to be honest with yourself. That's my big teaching, is like, inner integrity is the most important. That's where karma comes from. You can be like, I ate the last piece of pizza, and that's that. But I don't have to tell anybody. I don't have to
know that you're lying and understand why you're doing it. Yeah.
I ate it and I lied about it, and oh well.
So what would you say about him now? Because you only did that for a period of time, but for how long have you been doing video production, and what else? What are the titles that you?
Well, I did. So I did the loss prevention thing. I did that for 10 years. And then I guess it's probably been 4 years now that I've been doing production, like production and post-production.
So what are your biggest triggers? Like, what are the things that upset you? Like, what bothers you? Like, that other people do?
That other people do?
I want to hear this.
Yeah. And now I got to think about it. Just in general,
because he's one of the most mellow guys I know.
Say, I'm not upset at people that often.
But he bangs those drums. He lives really close to me, so I can hear him when he's practicing in his garage, and it's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I think I don't. And this is fairly innocuous, but like people who, I'm a very organized person, right? And I like to create like systems for things or whatever. Things have places and they live in those places. And when I have a conversation with somebody and we're like, oh yeah, this is the way we're going to do something. And they're like, okay, I'll do it. And then they don't ever do it. Even if I have multiple conversations, like people telling me that they'll do something and make an effort, and then they don't make the effort to do it afterwards. Mm-hmm. That always sets me off.
Okay, what's the emotion? Anger?
Yeah, it'd be anger. Frustration. I think it starts as frustration and ends up as anger as it continues. So is it that
I believed you when you said you would do it? So like, I can't believe you, I can't trust you?
Yeah, that's kind of it. Well, it's a lot of the time it turns back on myself, right? Because I'll be upset. And then after it happens a handful of times, now I'm like, well, now it's me. Now I should just be mad at myself because I shouldn't have. I know you're not going to do it.
Yeah. So then would you say that it's like you're the one? So this tells me that in your childhood, you probably were disappointed a lot.
I guess.
This is getting deep.
Maybe. I know. Now you're making me dig back. I haven't thought about my childhood in a while. I mean, I had a happy childhood. But I was the youngest of 3 kids, and both my older brother and sister definitely were like, they got all the things that they wanted and stuff. And I never got any.
Did people tell you, yes, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then they didn't?
Yeah, that would happen. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's in the program. So our first programs are 0 to 7, conception to 7. And so what you're doing is you're still hoping that someone's going to prove you wrong. But the problem is you already have the belief that you're going to give them this, hey, do this for me, and they're not going to do it. So it's this conflict, right? It's like he's consciously saying, I really want to trust people, but unconsciously saying nobody will follow through for me. And it's a personal thing. So the minute it happens, so then every time you set yourself up to be disappointed, and this is a program. So you literally, I can tell what people were programmed to believe by what bothers them the most.
So the podcast was on hold for months because of me, because I was working on the house, building the house. And I kept telling Michael, we're going to start again. We're going to start again. And what were you thinking?
That did make me mad because I was also busy. So I was like, it's okay. We'll get back to it when we get back to it.
But that's different because it's not like he didn't already set up.
Right. It's not, he didn't schedule stuff and then I can't do it or whatever. That would be, if he was just like, yeah, we'll get back to it. I promise. There was never a date set.
So this is like the
whenever.
kid that would have been told like, hey mom, can we go to the, baseball card shop after school? Yeah. And then because there's work and other kids is probably like, oh, it didn't happen. Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Or I would always want my friends to come over to the house, but friends could not come to the house unless it was pristine. Perfect. And our house was never pristine. I mean, we had 3 kids just running around being crazy. No, I clean the house now. I didn't back then.
That's why he's so
because
organized.
I think I would clean my own stuff, but then there's 4 other people in the house. So not everybody would clean. And then my mom would be like, the house isn't clean. People can't come over. Then I couldn't hang out with my friends.
Yeah. See, so now he's like, let me be super organized so that like I can do stuff.
All right. What about me?
Okay.
Do me.
What bothers you?
Probably the biggest thing that bothers me is disrespect. And I don't like sensitive people either. I don't like weak people. I don't like disrespect. So I'm the least racist person. I'll give you an example. I'm the least racist person. I joke with all my friends of all different races. If there's something that comes up, I have a friend who's Pakistani and there's a Punjabi video. I'm going to send it to him, or I'm going to play it for him. It is like a midget Punjabi, and we're going to laugh. And I'll be like, is that your cousin? Or I don't know, man. It's just like, and I got black friends who, they joke with me and the white jokes, and it's all good. Like, I love Kill Tony because they do that all day long on Kill Tony. I don't know if you've ever seen Kill Tony. It's a comedy show on YouTube, and it's a podcast, but it's a comedy show.
Okay.
And they talk racist shit all the time. That's all they do. And then I know a couple people in my life that are not white that I'm close to who are racist. And anytime I say anything that's a joke, they're like, see, you're racist. And I'm like, no, dude, like, I'm not racist. That's a joke.
But they're racist.
But you really are. So don't try to like jump on anything I say that's joking about how we are as people and how different cultures are and how different races are and different religions are and how goofy we are in some of our things, our individual things within those brackets. That's what I'm laughing about. I'm enjoying them. I'm enjoying the differences.
Yes.
I have people I know that are racist against white people.
Yeah.
But they like me, or they're related to me, so they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But they really are racist against white people. And I'm like, you're racist.
So you have a lot of racism in your energy, even though you say you're not racist.
No. That's an example. I went down the path on that. I wouldn't say so. There's not a lot of racism in around me because our family is very mixed. So maybe that's where the joking comes, right? Because there's a lot of mix. You know how it is.
Yeah. I'm a Gen Xer, so like we were not sensitive to anything. Everything was a joke.
Yeah. If you're the only white guy at a party,
you're gonna get teased.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
If you're at a black gathering or a Hispanic gathering or anything. So.
And if you came back with a good one, then you were in. If you took it sensitive, you can't hang with us.
Yeah, but that's not racism.
Yeah, no.
But my thing is where it goes. I was giving you that as an example because then it's disrespectful. I feel like when they're really being a certain kind of way, or like, so just disrespect and sensitive people. Although sensitive people, I understand they haven't experienced things that, they haven't been through a lot. So they just get sensitive. You know, they haven't been through a lot of trying things.
Were you, I'm going to assume that one of your parents was probably not very sensitive with you. Like, were you told like, toughen up, don't cry? You need thicker skin.
Oh, my parents they're mostly non-existent. Yeah, for sure. I've looked into it. I'm like trying to figure myself out. I think one thing that made me understand was a child abandonment disorder. I didn't even know what that was until I was like 40. I'm almost 50 now. I'll be 50 in January. So like maybe 10 years ago, I was like, oh, okay, this explains a lot.
Yeah, that's why you would have thicker skin, because, you know, when you are not catered to or you're abandoned, you have to survive. So you can't just crawl in a hole and cry yourself to sleep. I mean, you can, but you have to eat or whatever. You have to be able to just deal with what is. This is, you know, I'm a believer in hard times make hard men and soft times make soft men. We've been in a kind of a soft period, and so people are super sensitive. I say this, I might have even said this on the last podcast I was on with you, but you know, I love the younger generations that they've brought so much attention to all the wrongs of the world. But I'm also like, gosh, it's so hard to walk on eggshells all the time. So I am appreciative that people are more conscious, like, hey man, didn't mean to hurt your feelings kind of thing. But also, like, we can't breathe because humans are just naturally, like we said, there is these archetypes, and some of them are like not sensitive archetypes, right? The warrior. And but yes, what that says to me is that did you grow up in like a neighborhood where you kind of had to be thick-skinned just to survive? Like, were you in a diverse neighborhood?
Always.
Yeah. That's why. So this is the thing. It's like, you're not racist, but you attract racism conversations and the energy of it, because you had to figure out how do I survive in a diverse environment and not get eaten up, right? But I don't want to fight my way through it. So I'm gonna do it in a way where I'm gonna, like, because if I didn't have my parents, I need to have some sort of community or friends or sense of something. And so if you just fought your way through it, you're just gonna do nothing but fight. But when you're like a white guy in a diverse community, you're gonna figure out how to hang. Like, I don't want to say chameleon, but there is the energy of like, I'm gonna be able to hang with any different group and not stand out too much, not be that guy. But that's why there's like racism around you, conversations and people that are racist, because race is a thing for you. You're aware of it.
And you're probably very comfortable with your thoughts and ideas on it. Whereas a lot of people who grew up in a not diverse area, they don't know what to think because they haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. Yeah,
because, you know, racism usually comes from people that haven't explored other cultures. We fear what we don't know. When you know, I've worked with all kinds of different kinds of people, and I've been all over the world, and everybody's the same. You know, I mean, I even joke that we all eat the same food. We just put different spices and different sauces on it. It's like, we all eat chicken, beef, pork, fish. It's like the same thing. Like, there's not a whole lot of differences.
Right.
There are subtleties that I think that, you know, and so you probably, you know, do I want to say like you probably were able to like code switch a little bit? Like, you were able to go into each environment and sort of figure out what's happening. And that is, you know, to me, that's a benefit. I was raised kind of that way. Lived in Boulder as a kid, and I was the too brown for Boulder. You know, I was a Mexican kid. My dad drove a Monte Carlo, and we lived in a rental, and I went to school with very privileged kids. And so I had to kind of like figure that out. And then my parents divorced, and we moved to Southern Colorado, where they're from. And it's way more diverse and less white people. And I was too white. They were like, who's this rich white girl from Boulder?
You couldn't win.
And I couldn't win. And I literally was like, I'm like 12 years old. Like, I'm just trying to be nice here. Like, what's the problem? But what it did for me is I learned how to work in any of those communities. I knew how to hang with any kind of people. And then when I traveled the world, people from all over the world couldn't figure out what kind of, they would look at me. I go to Egypt, they think I'm an Egyptian. I go to Peru, they think I'm Peruvian. I go to Mexico, they think, now they all kind of assume I'm maybe a little mixed, but they're all like, so you're local, right? These are you're guiding these Americans. And I'm like, no, I'm American. I'm always surprised. But it ended up working to my benefit. And you're the same. You can go anywhere around the world. And, you know, I mean, you look like a white guy, so you're not going to be
But I've had people think I was Puerto Rican, Hispanic.
Yeah, you look like you were mixed.
Or something like Eastern European. But yeah, it's weird. I had these Mexicans, they wanted to fight me one night, and they were all like, they're all, you fucking Puerto Rican, you know. That was like, okay. And then I've had
You're like, I've never even been to Puerto Rico.
well, I did grow up. There was a lot of Puerto Ricans on the East Coast, but I didn't like try to emulate. That was the one thing about me too. You can ask any of my like other friends. Corey, I think you mentioned it on the podcast. C1, the rapper, Corey. He's a black guy, and he said you're like the least racist. He's like, you can't be racist. He's like, there's no way. But he also said, he's like, you never ever tried to act like anybody else, even though you were always around us.
You didn't try to become.
No, it was weird too, because I remember I've lived in different places. Like when I lived in Texas, and then I lived in Connecticut, and I remember the black kids in Connecticut, because by the time I got there, I was like 8 years old when I went back to that time. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And they had their group of kids they all grew up with. And I remember the black kids trying to fight me and having a fight with some of them. And then I moved. I just happened to move later on to California. And we moved right into a neighborhood that had Asians, blacks, Hispanics, and the black guys there, they were older. They were like, I was like 13, 14, 15, something like that. And they were like 18, 19, 20. So they grew up past that kid shit. Mm-hmm. So even though I didn't grow up with them, they're like, hey, what's up, man? What's your name? You know, like it was like, so I always, and then even when I wasn't accepted, you know, by the black kids in Connecticut, the Puerto Rican kids all embraced me, and but then I never disliked the black kids, because I had a lot of white people in my family who were doing bad things to me, like not taking care of me. My dad was out. My mom, you know, God rest her soul, she passed away last year. And before she passed away, we actually she came out here. We kind of had some good time. She was on her last days, and we kind of buried the hatchet a little bit, you know. Cause
she take responsibility for...
We didn't really get into all that, you know. It was just more like just enjoying the moment and just hanging out, and just, you know, we didn't really rehash. But my point is, and I don't want to disrespect her, I've never called my mom outside of her name. I've never said anything. I've never called her a bad name in my life, even though she just wasn't good to me. And I hope she's in, you know, a better place, and I hope she's, you know, can rest in peace. But I had tons of white people in my life who were related to me, who were my blood, who were just doing me so bad. What do I care? Like, oh, I hate all black people now? Yeah. So at a young age, I had these weird thoughts. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Yeah. Like even when later on, when I went to like prison, you know, you see all these people who are like, oh, fuck that group or fuck that group. And you're like, well, wait a minute. We got plenty of shitty guys on this side. There's plenty of shitty white guys. I'm here. I can tell you in my life, I've experienced it. So what? Like, I hate white people now? How does that make sense?
Doesn't.
It's just, I hate people. I hate people.
You sound like the girls on my podcast. They're always like, I don't even like people.
No, I mean, let me finish the second half of that. I hate people who do those things. Like, I hate people's actions. Yeah. I don't hate a group of people.
But that's where I say people need to understand people. People do those actions because they're wounded kids. All your nobody is over 7 years old. People are literally little kids walking around trying to figure out, and they're like, let me go to this meeting, but I'm really just a 7-year-old little boy.
You can raise a dog that's super kind, super nice, super friendly, or you can raise a dog that is a killer. Yep. Yeah.
And that's what happens to people. And that's what I look at. Because sometimes people in my community will say, you're really patient with so-and-so or this person or that one. Because, you know, we have people in the community that just are, you know, they're just more to deal with. And I say everyone needs some kind of healing, and they're just children trying to figure it out. And their wounds, if you didn't get what you needed from your parents, you're saying, okay, my parents kind of abandoned me. And it's like, people literally just aren't connected to their parents from the day they're born. If a baby comes out of the womb and doesn't lay on the mother's chest, skin to skin, and sink their heart, immediately the baby's not connected to their mother. And most of the Western medical complex, whatever, childbirth is like, baby comes out, you cut the cord, they swoop the baby off to clean him off, whatever. Maybe you get the baby 30 minutes later. No, that baby needs to come out and be on the mother's chest immediately. Cord doesn't need to be cut right away. You need to wait. Let the heart sink. That right there is a connection that every child needs before it even starts its life, because the only thing it knows is that mother's heartbeat. And when you come out of the world and your parents don't want you, or you didn't get that, they might love you and want you, but you didn't get that for whatever reason. Women have C-sections, the mother's knocked out, there's all kinds of reasons. That baby already is not connected properly. So I look at everyone from initial programs, past life, ancestral, conception, gestation, birth, first 6 hours, first 6 days, first 6 years. After that, you're cooked. That's it. That's everything you're going to be until you consciously try to change it. What do you know at 6 years old? So at 6 years old, you only know what you've been programmed over the last 6 years. So programs meaning, if you're in your mother's womb and she's not happy in her marriage, or she's depressed, or who knows what, maybe a parent died or whatever, she's grieving, that baby is already coming out in some state of grief. So this baby could be 40 years old and say, I have a good life, but I just have this underlying sadness.
I'll give you the first 6 years really quick.
Yeah.
I'll give you a brief outline.
Okay.
So before she had me, my mom got pregnant the first time. Her parents made her have an abortion. She got pregnant with me. My dad said, nope, I'm not letting your parents do that again. That's why I was born in Tucson, Arizona, because he took her and said, let's go. And took her away from Connecticut. I was born down there. He was fighting her the whole time she was pregnant with me to not do drugs. Took drugs, flushing drugs. I've heard all these stories. Meanwhile, he was dealing drugs. He was working with cartels in Mexico, which I didn't believe him. Nobody believes. Everybody has a fucking cartel story. Oh, I'm a fucking dealing drugs for the cartel. But my dad actually got busted with like 500 pounds of weed in that area, 500 pounds in that area of hash. In that time, I think hash was a big thing. This was in the 70s.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, this was like, I was born 76, so I think he got busted in like 75, 74 or something like that, right before I was born. And so she had me down there, and he was in prison, I think, when I was born, and he got like 30 something years. But in the 70s, you do 5 years on 30 years. Like,
yeah,
it's not a big deal.
Day for day. And yeah,
it's way different now. But, so, my aunt said she'd come over when I was like 6 months old, a year old, before I was 2. She would come over all the time, and because one of my dad's sisters lived down there too. There's 10 of them, so he had 9 siblings. So they were all over the U.S., California, Colorado, Arizona. Oh, wow. Kind of like wherever he had a sibling is where I've lived. Yeah. Because we always moved around. Family was important to my dad. He just had a drug habit, so he was very irresponsible. But he was the loving side, where my mom was more mean. But she would come over to the apartment where I was at when my dad was in prison. I was just living with my mom. She'd hear me crying inside and nobody answering the door. So she'd have to find a way to get inside, open a window, go find me in there alone. And she said, usually there was like half the crib, the door for the one side of the crib was broke off the crib, and it was jammed between the wall and the refrigerator. It's like a triangle. So you couldn't get out. Yeah. And like, she pinned me in there while she left. And then, So my aunt said, I'd find you shitted. You know, I'd have to clean you, feed you. You were hungry. Mom wasn't around. She was out doing drugs. And finally, at 2 years old, my mom dropped me off at a daycare in Tucson, Arizona, and left the state. Never came to pick me up. I stayed in foster care until I was like 5. Then that aunt got me. And then when I was 5, so I lived with her for about a year because my dad got out right before my 6th birthday. My dad was nuts. He was crazy. He had a house so then she gave me to him, and he rented this house. I remember he had this house. So I just went from all that to this guy who was like a partier, and like, he gave me a BB gun. Here's a BB gun.
Go entertain.
Go shoot whatever you want. I mean, here we are in Tucson, Arizona. They rented this house. There was, you open up the fridge. They turned up the coldness on the fridge to where they had a snowman in the fridge, because they thought, I mean, at that time, so my dad wasn't born in 1953. So when I was 6 years old in 1982, he would have been about 30, 29, 30. So he's a kid.
He's a kid.
Yeah.
Because now that you're almost 50, do you realize like your parents are kids when they had you?
It's crazy.
Crazy.
And I realized that thinking back, right? That's why I mentioned it. So, snowman in the fridge. So you open up the fridge, there's a snowman, like the head and the body, and eyes, and I think they probably had a carrot, because that's what they did. My dad had to have a carrot and a snowman.
Yeah.
And it was slowly melting, because you can only turn those fridges up so much, but it'll stay for a long time. So there was beer stuffed in around the snowman, beer and a snowman. And
no food for you.
I don't know. We always ate, though. My dad always made
sure.
So
his bachelor pad.
Yeah. There was always, he took care of me.
But before 6, I mean, the message was, I'm alone. My needs aren't being met. I'm abandoned.
Yeah. Back to what we were talking about. Yeah. That was me up until 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then here's this guy at 6. I mean, he's buying me my first bike. He taught me how to ride a bike. I remember that house. I remember learning in that driveway. It was a long driveway. And I remember, sure, he had a snowman in the fridge, packed with beer around it. By the time we left that house, half the windows were boarded up because they had broken windows from partying. So they put plywood. But here's a guy who's like, here's a BB gun. Go shoot, He wanted me to shoot doves because they were eating them, I guess. I bring them back to him.
Get dinner.
They threw them in the freezer. I don't know. They were wild. And then in my first bicycle, and taught me how to ride a bike. He's the guy holding my seat, pushing me,
Yes.
I remember let me just tell you this piece. I remember when I went back to him in California at 12, 13-ish, that time when I left Connecticut and went to California. That was back to him. He was living behind a bar in a trailer, no power, no electricity in this trailer. There was a bunch of hippie guys that all living. There's a river there, Calumet River. It was I think what was the bar? The Swallow Bar. The Swallow Bar. It's in Northern California on the river, on the Calumet River, and a bunch of hippies just living, just guys smoking weed, guys doing other drugs, just living behind this bar in trailers, and no electricity. I had just left one of the biggest houses in New Britain, Connecticut. My grandparents owned the biggest house in New Britain, Connecticut. It was built in like 1906 or something like that by the guy who owned the brick company in New Britain, Connecticut, and he built, that was his mansion. There was rooms in the attic. That's how cool this house was.
So no wonder you just built a big brick house.
Oh yeah, I got some of that in me too. So I went.
See how we repeat our childhood.
So I left that. My mom's family, they were well off and decent. I mean, we went to private schools and everything. It's just.
So you had that sort of feast or famine.
Oh yeah.
I have but don't have.
What's crazy though with feast or famine would be and my mom, her dad gave her a house, and would be with her, but I couldn't eat. Be going to private school, in the driveways, new cars, but couldn't eat hardly. Like they made you food, that's it. And my dad, he'd give you everything. So I just wanted to tell you this piece. So when I went to California, he's living in this bar. I living behind this bar in a trailer, wearing flip-flops, cut off jeans, tank top, bandana, beard.
He's that guy.
Oh yeah, I can show you pictures. There's probably one around here. I don't know. And and I remember the first night I was there, he went to the bar and said, "Hey," he said, "can I run an extension cord out to my trailer because my son's here?"
Aww.
And
He needs electricity.
There's no light, and there was one light in the middle that he had just hooked up, and he went there and he brought me because it was a bar. They had food there too.
Yeah.
So he brought me food and said, "Here's a sandwich," and he didn't even eat. You know, that's the opposite thing. I think it was like the second or third day because it was a round trip plane ticket. I was just supposed to go there for the summer because me and my mom were fighting. I was getting to that age. And
yeah.
I was back with her after everything that happened when I was little, and there's just it wasn't good. And I ripped up the return plane ticket right in front of him, and I said, "I'm not going back." I said, "I would rather live here and he was shooting up heroin. He was doing drugs.
You're like,
not in front of me, but he was addicted to drugs, no job, in a trailer, in a little trailer. It wasn't a big trailer. It was one of those like camping ones,
yeah,
where there's a bed on each side and a little kitchenette in the middle. And it's probably like 14 feet long or something. Behind a bar, no job, shooting up drugs, nothing. I just went to a private school that I got kicked out of every year. I got kicked out 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. Got kicked out every year and had to go to public school.
And they kept taking you back?
Well, because who my grandpa was. He was a deacon in the church that was associated with the school. It was a Christian private school that was associated with like one of the biggest churches in the area. And my grandpa was he was on the board and all that. And so
that makes sense. It's always the pastor's kids that are like,
yeah, but what was I saying about?
No, he's not a pastor.
Horace
well, yeah, but
deacon,
I mean, like,
pastor, same thing.
I went to private Christian schools too, and it was like the pastor's kids that were always like causing trouble and getting in trouble, but they would never get kicked out, and if they did, they'd be back later.
But the reason is because you have to hold that standard, you know, that Horace and Sobek idea. So it's like, if my grandpa is Horace, I have to be Sobek.
No, the reason was because I was going to school every day with blood dripping from the back of my head or my back of my arms or my nose or my lip, and I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old during that time.
From your mom?
Yeah, of course.
She was beating you?
Of course. You know, that was...
So why did how come nobody took you from her? Like, why did she continue because of your grandpa?
So, stay with my dad at 6, and then at 6 he said, "Hey, I'm going to send you to your mom." I don't know who this lady is at 6. Right? Because she left me out of daycare when I was 2. And I'm like, okay. So I go up there. It's just her and my stepdad both. I mean, I found cocaine, heroin, needles. He was a heroin addict. Weed, porno mags everywhere, like all this stuff when I was like that age. And then at the end of that summer, my dad shows up with a U-Haul with a new wife and says, "I'm taking you, we're going to Texas." And my mom's like, "I don't know if that's a good idea." And he's like, "I'm taking them." Like, it's all chaos.
Yeah, it's chaos. No structure.
No planning.
Nobody really tells you what's happening.
Yeah, these are my parents.
Yeah.
You know, meanwhile.
So now you're a perfectionist, OCD, control every thing.
You won't figure it out. I'm a monster.
He's challenging you.
I know he's a monster.
I'm a monster in a good way now, though, because I came to a certain. We don't have to keep going.
But are you that? Are you very like, I want to be in charge of everything so that I know what's happening?
No, I don't want to be in charge of everything.
He just has to be.
He is.
I want other people to do a lot of things. And I have my kids and stuff like, hey, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I like them to tell me what they want to do and stuff like that as well.
But when you want something done, you want it done your way.
I probably have to do it if I want it done right.
I can vouch.
He's known me a while.
I'd be in the front yard, and Jeremiah and his kids he's in his front yard, and his kids are helping him, and they're doing they're doing the thing he asked him to do, but he's like, guys.
Yeah,
no.
micromanaging.
Come here, let me show you how to do it. So we'll walk him through it.
But didn't you say you were that way?
Yeah, well,
he doesn't have kids. So.
No, but like
He's
but I
blessed.
end up doing it myself afterwards. I don't like take him and walk him back through it. I just like get mad and then do it myself.
Yeah, but see, like attracts like. You're the
Yeah,
same.
that's true.
Yeah.
So there came a point. I mean, going through all we can just keep going about all the crazy stuff I've been through, but at some point, I had to realize that, hey, man, like I'm in control of my shit now. Like these two or whoever else, I can't live my life. This is my journey, right? I need to focus on my journey. I cannot just, you see these people, like back to the weak people thing. They go through things in life and they're just like, I just became a meth head or a fentanyl addict or alcoholic or anything weak in life because you don't know how my childhood was. And I'm like, okay, the only thing I didn't go through was get molested. Thank God. Mm-hmm. Thank God.
Yeah, that's surprising, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because I say like 90% of the people see me have been molested.
Yeah.
And not all of them know it.
Yeah.
They could sit there and I know it, but they don't know it. And I'm not going to tell them.
Yeah, I've been in anger management classes in prison where there'd be like some hardcore gang member who starts crying in front of all these dudes and talking about how he was raped and as a kid. And I'm just like, bro.
Oh, no, I feel like you don't have no idea. What I see is, I always say, it doesn't matter if it was like the worst kind of abuse or like sometimes I'll hear stories like my stepdad, I turned 13 and my stepdad smacked my ass. And that's when they realize like, oh, they're now an object, right? Or now they have they feel some kind of way. And I say, it's the same wound to the psyche as if you might as well have raped her because it's the same wound. Once we feel,
yeah, it's terrible.
Once a young person feels like you're not safe anymore, you're supposed to be my parent, my uncle, uncles, grandparents, cousins, neighborhood kids. I hear that all the time. The older boys, I used to be a little bit like, gosh, give these kids some breathing room, right? Let kids play. And now I'm like, where are the kids? I want to know how many kids are here at this barbecue. Where are they? Because I hear stories of like, oh, we were at a family barbecue and so-and-so did such and such to me behind the garage while everybody else is playing volleyball, or took us for ice cream. And while all the other kids went in, I was touched. It's awful. Mm-hmm. And so if you haven't been, you had a good childhood. But that's also, everyone's had a rough childhood because it's also perspective. Because there's people that, like you said, you had a pretty good childhood, but you still got wounded.
Yeah, you still leave with
stuff. You still get wounded.
That's that soft shit I was talking about.
But that's true though, right? You talk about people who have uneventful lives. That's how I feel sometimes is like then words like use this word but not this word to people who have had uneventful lives become so much more important because it's like, yeah, no one's ever tried to like stab you or punch you in the face, or you've never like wrestled a meth addict. Like, yeah, it's sure.
That's a good
Words
point.
Are rough.
That's a good point. Johnny, the one who called me before the podcast, his parents are great. His dad even came work for our company. Great guy. Like the guy is like super great guy. His mom, I met her, super nice lady. But he's been stabbed, shot. What else? I thought there was a third thing we used to joke about with him. Maybe we used to tell him the next one.
So he was making up for his perfect childhood?
Yeah, I mean, he's went through some things.
Yeah.
Even with having great parents.
Yeah.
He went through some other things that were like, whoa.
Yeah, it depends also on, like, I have a school of Maya Cosmology, and in that we look at what we call the Mayan Nawals. Every person has 4 Nawals. It's kind of like your zodiac chart. So if you look at the Nawals, that can also dictate, like, let's say he had Kame, which is the energy of death. If he had that in his chart, like in his destiny, he would then have these near-death experiences due to that energy in his chart. So I say I encourage people to know their zodiac, their Mayan Nawals, their Human design is another one. Knowing these things, you kind of then know like, oh, I was destined. This was in my chart. So you could have charts that say like, oh, you'll have some really hardships in your childhood. So I always say thank you to the parents that played the bad guys so that you could fulfill your destiny, right? It's like, if this was in my chart, I was supposed to do it at some point. And so thank you, mom and dad, for being terrible parents so I could have this experience. Or I could have this experience so that I could be a great father, because now I know what not great parenting looks like. So now I can be a great father. But every person I work with has some childhood wound, and it could be the smallest thing. Like I had somebody one time that she was a performer and she was having like, she was kind of like stuck at some level, and she couldn't get to like why she couldn't become more whatever she was doing. And what I found was that I said, there's something in your childhood when you were like 7 or 8 that stunted that. And you know, she's like, no, my parents were great, and she goes, oh well, I do remember this one time. Now why would we remember it if it was not a big deal, right? I do remember this one time I was practicing the piano in the living room, and my mom was on the phone, and she didn't look. She goes, I was practicing and I look over at my mom like looking for that, like I'm doing a good job,
the affirmation.
And her mom, without even looking at her, kicked the door with her foot and slammed the door on her because she was on the phone, right? And the daughter was like, all she saw was a slam. So literally, she can't progress in her success because she gets the door slammed on her. She's like, everywhere I audition, no, right? Door slammed on my face. That was the thing. That little person took that as if my mom doesn't like it, no one's going to like it. And the mom probably was just like, but if the mom would have turned and said, good job, honey, I'm going to close the door because I'm on the phone, we would have had a different scenario.
So you know what's weird is I don't have any of those memories, like of a thing that bothers me. Like,
yeah, but you just gave us a whole bunch of things.
No, but like I can't be like, oh, that time.
No, you had big ones, so you don't even need
and ones that seem to be repetitive throughout your whole childhood.
Yeah, very repetitive.
And so look at your life, like you said, as soon as you
it's
said
like every day was the same thing.
As soon as you
like
said
nonsense.
that your grandparents' house was big brick house, the biggest. Your house is the biggest brick house on the street. This is what we do. We literally take our childhood and we replicate it.
Well, I got exposed to that.
I know.
Yeah, and then
but also that's part of like, you didn't just build a house or a log cabin. You built a brick house. That's like literally
it's stone. It's not brick.
Well, it's metaphorically
semantics.
The same thing. Like, don't try to weasel out of
It's close. It's close enough.
It's the biggest house on the street.
Yeah.
But that says, right? So we go 6 years old, we record everything. And then from 6 on, we just play repeat. What happens is when we get more aware, we go, oh, I don't want to do that anymore, right? I don't want to get in trouble anymore because then you go to prison. So I'm going to consciously make a change.
Make adjustments.
So what you did is you made a hard adjustment and you said, I'm on my own. You made it, you're like, stop waiting for these people to figure it out. I'm on my own and I'm going to do it, but I have to control every single piece of it.
Yeah. Remember that guy on, was it Friday? One of the Friday series movies, the Hispanic guy who was like, no more locked doors. No more locked doors. He was talking about prison. Yes. I used to laugh so hard. I said, yeah.
I literally knew a guy I went to high school that was just like that. He reminds me so much.
I was like,
guy.
Dude, that's going to be my motto. And I wanted to make a switch because I was like, fuck that.
But see, once you made the switch, you then went the other side and you went hyper focused and you're like, I'm going to do everything I can to succeed. And success looks like the biggest brick house on the street.
Well, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I remember even when I was in prison, it was weird to me, like a lot of like hardened dudes and other people who were like, just like, these weren't, a lot of them not nice people, like according to society.
Yeah.
They would ask me for advice. It's weird. Like there was a point where some guys were calling me the counselor. I remember we would be like an ad seg and there'd be a dude next to me. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. I can't take it anymore. I'm like, hey, bro. Hey, dude. I was like,
Chill
out, dude. I'm like, you got a book? You got a TV? You know, or do some push-ups. Or I talk to him through the vent, and like we go out to the little, because I spent a lot of time in segregation, whether it was fighting or fighting with guards.
So can we look at something here? Why do you think one of the reasons he ended up in prison, from what he's told us in his story?
Oh, you guys, what happened? The actual crimes?
No, like why psychologically, if he repeats his childhood, what happened in his childhood that would then put him in jail and in segregation?
Oh, there was two things. I would say violence.
No, I'm not talking like that. I'm not talking about the acts.
Oh.
What did he experience? What did you tell us about? What did he say? You don't remember?
About the diversity of his childhood?
No, he said, my mom used to put me, she used to take the door.
Oh, come on.
No, really.
No way.
Yes, absolutely. She put you in a cage. And then you went into segregation because you're alone. You weren't in a cage with somebody else. So I
don't want to go to segregation.
No, but psychologically you will cause that to happen.
I think
because
the
that's
universe
what you know.
dictates that sometimes. I mean, one time was a cop attacked me, and I hit him a bunch of times, and I went to segregation for 6 months for that.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go there.
No, of course not.
And he attacked me.
But you didn't want to go there as a baby either.
Okay.
So this is what I'm saying. So when people talk about the universe is consciousness. Consciousness is literally your most formative years you were programmed. Do you remember the movie Back to the Future?
Of course.
Do you remember the scene when he goes back, he's at his mom's house, his grandparents' house, and the uncle is a little boy and he's in the crib?
Yeah.
And they're like, he's all in behind the bars, and he's like, oh, uncle, now I know why you're behind, because he goes to jail in the future.
Yeah.
It's that idea. You psychologically.
But that was a joke.
I know, but it's,
come on.
But it's true.
Maybe
that cop knew you wanted to be segregated. He gave you the opportunity.
Our reality.
That was a crazy day. So I worked in the kitchen, and I worked on the cop line where the cops would come get food, and they had different food. Better food. So there was this crooked ass cop in the gym cop, Mr. Burke, big old guy, tall, big old guy, he's kind of whatever. He was an obnoxious individual anyways, and a liar and a lot of bad things. So he was always like, hey man, he wanted extra. He was a big guy, so he's like 300 something pounds. So he wanted a lot of food, and I'm only supposed to give
so much.
Even them, they're supposed to get a regular serving. And I was like, hey man, I was like, cool. I seen how crooked this guy was. He's just shady, right? Right away when a cop is saying, hey, doing this, and said, hey, hook me up, he's already shady. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, we look for that, right? All the inmates are always looking for the weakness in the officers, because that's how all the drugs come in. That's how everything happens. And
that's because that's what they are. We know what we know from ourselves.
Yeah. And there was other things too that landed me in seg from other weak cops there was a lot. We almost got in big trouble, but yeah, that's a whole nother story. But we almost got a lot more time because a cop got busted with pounds of weed. Let me think how I say this.
And now people just smoking it on the street.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah.
Pounds and pounds of weed, tons and tons of cans of tobacco. This is after they stopped smoking in there, and you couldn't have it in there, but it was worth a ton.
Right.
And then cash. So packages were getting, allegedly, yeah, that's the way I'll word it. Allegedly, packages were getting sent to his mom's house. And then his mom was like, what are all these packages for? What are they for? What are they for? And this is one of the prisons outside of Pueblo. Okay. In your neck of the woods.
Right, Ordway? Is it Ordway?
Next to Ordway, Crowley County. Okay. That private one.
Okay.
And then his mom one day opened up one of the packages. So she found, like, I think in that, I don't remember how many pounds of weed were in that one. What they said were in that one, rather. And then how many cans of tobacco, and then cash is always, they said, whatever. So right away the cop said he was bringing it to a couple people in there. And so they came and got me and another guy, and who was my cellmate at the time. And I remember that day too, man. I was like, because you hear a noise, right? Everything in prison is very consistent. Very consistent. Like everything. This time, that time, this time, that time.
Right. That's why some people do well in prison.
Yeah, sure. And so I heard something that was outside of normal. It's like, what's that noise? And we're way up on this top tier in the corner. We actually bought that apartment. It was a 4-man cell, but only us two lived in there. And we actually were paying the officer of the pod to not move anybody else in there. Like, you know, so we had this big room.
Like I was saying, Horace and Sobek.
So they come, I go out there and I see the sort team, they're called. That's when they come, they're all geared up. They got the helmets, the shields, the rubber, the guns, all that stuff. And I look down and I see there's the captain. Everybody knows he's the big guy, big captain. And he's got just like 20 of them, 15, I don't know how many. And they look up at our apartment, our cell. They look up at our cell and I'm like, oh shit. So I told my cellmate, I said, hey, they're coming and they're looking at our cell. And so anyways, long story short, they take us to ADSEG and they say this officer got busted with this stuff. It was delivered to his house and he said he was bringing it to you guys. And I said, hey man, I said, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I said, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, but if you thought he was bringing it to us, then you should have let him bring it to us.
Yeah, you have no proof now.
So that's it. But they still convict you in there, ADSEG you, and you still spend tons of time in there for that. Yeah.
So what happened at this apartment? Did you ever have a drama at an apartment?
Drama in an apartment?
Yeah, because you said apartment twice.
Oh, no, it was like an apartment.
But I mean,
the way we were set up.
Do you have like a memory of living in an apartment?
No, it's just the way it was. We had it set up.
Yeah.
Right. It was all like we had all kinds of food and you know.
But I just wondered if there was a drama at an apartment.
We had TV.
When you were a kid.
He had a color TV. I had a color TV.
Yeah.
Even though they're just
it's your spot.
Jeremiah was just taking control of his living situation.
As you see, I upscale everything.
To the brick house on the street.
So I've been at ADSEG a lot that had to do with officers, and this was before this actually. This one. So he came, let me get some, hook me up with a bunch more chicken, hook me up with a bunch more cookies, this big old fucking fat motherfucker. So I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, no problem. Because like he's at my mercy. And I'm like, how can I maximize, right? Because I can't take food out of there. I want more.
Yeah.
I only am limited to what I can get. So you're always looking for the hustle, right? So I said, yeah, man. I said, but hey, check this out. I'll give you whatever you want. But I'm going to give you a second tray. And that's for me. I'm going to come to the gym and I'm going to pick that up later. Right? Because if I go to the gym, that's kind of free movement time. So getting that and then walking back, I can get that back easily. It's because there's no searches you really have to go through from those 2 points.
Yeah.
When you leave a kitchen, of course, because there's knives and there's all of that stuff. They got to check you, make sure you're not, bringing anything out of the kitchen. So we had that rapport going, doom. And I was always in the gym. So went there one night, and this wasn't a night I was picking up anything from him. It's just he was working there. And there's 2 yards that are split by a fence to the middle of the building. That's the gym. There's a door on that side and a door on this side. And they open up both sides going to the gym together. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll open up this door and sometimes they'll open up that door first, rather. It just depends on which side they go open first. So this day they went and opened up that door for that yard. So the guys on my side, I'm like back in, I'm not even at the door. I'm like 20 guys back just talking to a couple dudes. The guys at the door, the inmates at the door are convicts or whatever. There's, I don't know who was at the door. they were kicking in the door and yelling, "Come open the door," because all the guys were going in that side and they're going to get all the weights first. And I didn't care, because by this time, I had been locked up with all these guys for so many years. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm going to jump in with somebody. I don't even care. And they came. Then Officer Burke was this big old dumb fat motherfucker. He comes and opens.
Who I apparently still have issue with.
I was going to say.
Yeah. I do, because he's a cop, and he totally lied about what happened. I got screwed. It was self-defense. And I'm like, hey, man, if I get in a fight with an inmate, we're not saying anything, right? It's whatever. We'll just go do our little 15 days, 20 days, 30 days in segregation. But I got ADSEC, which is administrative segregation. I'm in there for 6 months.